Ah, so here we are in the quiet once again. I'm Debbie Hazelton, and it's a pleasure to be with you once again in this wonderful time that we have together. It's sort of, I think of in the quiet as parenthetical time. It's time that is sort of separated out, where we get to be in this container, away from all the rest of the world, away from the noise, just in this space between thoughts, between words, between activities. And I know that Jason is here. I believe that Rick is here. I'm not sure. Some of you people, I see you in my magic mirror, but some of you don't fess up, man. You just don't come forward. I might hear about it later. And I know that many of you listen on other stations at other times, and it's so good to have you. I would love to hear from you. And you can go to debbiehazelton.com and my contact form and let me know you're listening. I'd love to know that you're there and what you especially like, what keeps you coming back for more. Maybe it's the time that's set aside. Maybe it's knowing that several of us are there together in that time, in that space, and where two or more are gathered, something absolutely awesome that's bigger than all of us put together is taking place. And I like to contemplate that space. That space. I've even read that the space between the particles in the atom is where much of the activity really is, in what seems to be empty space. That's where there's more happening. What happens when we crowd ourselves into small spaces? Could be a crowded car, a crowded desk, a crowded closet, a crowded mind, a crowded schedule. What happens when we're in those crowded spaces? It can seem like there isn't much more of anything that's possible. It can be hard to move, hard to bend, hard to think, hard to know that something else is possible. And yet, what happens when we allow even the slightest bit of space? Suddenly, that slightest bit of space that comes into any of those crowded spaces, that comes onto that what was a crowded desk, that comes into that what was a crowded closet, that comes into what was a crowded schedule. What happens? What happens when it's space that comes into a crowded mind? is a little more room, even a little, to collect oneself, to somehow rearrange oneself in such a way to regroup, in such a way to take stock in a brand new way, even slightly, being able to move something somewhere else and bring another something into view or into a different perspective. And so there is suddenly more possibility in what seemed even moments ago so crowded. There is suddenly almost a cause for celebration, because with room to move, perhaps there's a greater sense of power or opportunity. Even the slightest greater sense of ease in that extra space. And sometimes we can make a whole lot more possibility in even the smallest amount of extra space. It's kind of like when a little light suddenly comes into what was a dark room. And suddenly it's a different room, just because of even the smallest amount of light. And so we can notice the space between our breaths, the space between the in-breath and the out-breath, and even that little extra quiet space between the out-breath and the in-breath. And even notice how maybe just a short while ago we were too busy for that extra space, or too busy to even create it or consider it or to notice the benefit. Space, extra space, where the activity of spirit has an opportunity to expand, to create. And so do we have opportunities to create in extra space. In the quiet. In the quiet, the parenthetical places where we have opportunity to regroup, to allow, to become refueled, rejuvenated, renewed. And so, as I continue to play music for us, I invite you to enjoy, to allow, to take advantage of this time in whatever way you choose or are able. You might be doing other things, and perhaps giving the opportunity, giving permission to the experience to do its perfect work, even while you're doing other things, to know, to trust that something good is happening, even in the background, that something good is happening right along with you, within you, between all of us. So let it be, and so it is.